On the outskirts of a small, sleepy town, the abandoned museum had long been a source of whispered legends and ghostly tales. It had stood empty for decades, its grand facade now a crumbling relic of a bygone era. The heavy iron gate that once protected its treasures had rusted through, and the windows, long since shattered, were framed by creeping vines.
One autumn evening, a group of friends, Jake, Emily, Sam, and Ava, decided to venture into the Eerie Museum.
They were seeking thrills and a story to share. After all, the allure of the forbidden was too enticing to resist. They entered through a side door, its hinges protesting with a creak that echoed through the still air. Inside, the museum was a maze of darkness and decay. Their flashlights cut through the gloom, revealing dusty exhibits draped in white sheets and cobwebs hanging from the ceiling. The friends chatted excitedly, their voices echoing off the old walls, but the air was thick with an unsettling chill. As they wandered deeper into the museum, they stumbled into a vast hall lined with statues. These statues were unlike any they had seen before. Each one was exquisitely detailed, carved with such precision that they seemed almost lifelike. Their faces were contorted in various expressions of horror and agony, and their limbs were posed in grotesque, unnatural positions.
These are incredible.
Jake said, running his hand along the cold stone of one statue.
I've never seen anything like them.
They're so detailed, it's like they're alive.
Emily, her curiosity piqued, approached a statue that depicted a figure with an elongated face, its mouth open in a silent scream. She whispered, her breath misting in the cold air. The friends began to examine each statue, their flashlights casting eerie shadows on the walls. Ava, who had been quietly studying a statue of a young woman with her arms raised in terror, suddenly noticed something odd.
Guys, I think something's wrong.
Her voice trembled as she spoke. The others turned to her, their faces filled with concern. But when they glanced back at the statues, they found nothing unusual.
It's just your imagination,
Sam said, though he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. As they turned to leave the hall, a strange sensation washed over them, an overwhelming sense of being watched. The statues, once immobile and silent, began to shift subtly. Their limbs twitched, their heads turned with creaking stone-on-stone noises. It was almost imperceptible at first, like shadows moving in the periphery of vision. As the friends reached the entrance, a loud clattering noise erupted behind them. They whirled around to see the statues moving with deliberate, jerky motions. Their expressions seemed even more distorted, their mouths now frozen in expressions of terrible, silent screams. Panic surged through the group as they realized the statues were coming to life.
Run, we need to get out of here.
They stumbled and ran, but the museum seemed to stretch endlessly. The once familiar hallways now twisted and warped, leading them deeper into the heart of the museum.
There's got to be an exit somewhere.
Jake, in a frantic attempt to find an exit, smashed a window with his flashlight, but the opening led only to darkness.
No, it's just more darkness.
Emily's scream pierced the air as a statue with elongated arms reached out towards her, its stone fingers inches from her face.
Emily, watch out!
The friends were trapped. Their breathing grew ragged as they navigated the labyrinthine corridors, each turn only bringing them face to face with more of the nightmarish statues.
We can't keep running like this.
The statues loomed ever closer, their presence an inescapable nightmare. Eventually, they stumbled into a small room, its walls lined with mirrors. They saw their own terrified reflections, but as they looked closer, the reflections seemed to move independently, their faces twisted into grotesque smiles. Behind them, the statues emerged, their movements now fluid and almost graceful. The friends were cornered. The statues surrounded them, their stony faces now showing expressions of sinister glee. The last thing the friends saw before their lights flickered out was the cruel smile of the statues as they closed in, their stone hands reaching out to claim their next victims. In the days that followed, the museum remained silent, the only sign of the friends' fate being the absence of their footsteps and the faint echoes of their screams. The statues stood as they always had, immobile, lifelike, and waiting. And those who dared to look upon them might feel a shiver, for they would always sense the silent, terrible promise that the statues were not entirely still, and they never truly were.